Welcome to another edition of Walking with J.Beau, an almost daily walking vlog. Today we have some nice weather. It's in the mid-50s, probably closer to 52 right now. It's going to cool off quick. We're going to get some sun setting in a couple hours, 2.5 hours. And we got time to get a walk in before it gets dark. So we're going to walk on up the road. We had a whole ton of rain overnight through most of earlier today. Then we're going to get cool for 2, maybe 3 days. So we got quite a few things to talk about today that I didn't talk about yesterday. Well, the day before yesterday. I didn't walk yesterday because I spent the entire walk talking about firearms, which was actually fun. Hope you enjoyed that. We passed the pickleball court. I'm gonna go play some pickleball. Cut across here. A lot of people out walking today, I noticed. Some of the people look like they need to get in shape. So that's good. Get out and walk, friends. You won't regret it. So this is where there's a tethered dog. I'm going to stay over here in the traffic lane because I know they won't be able to come out this far. And it's not out today, so I'm safe. So basically, we had a lot of protesting going on in the country yesterday. And it seemed like a lot. They estimated about 500,000 people nationwide. So, what does that say? Well, it says that the .orgs have organized. They're catching their wind after the election. I talked about it in past walks. I was wondering why it was taking them so long. Now they have decided to launch. I don't think they really believed what Trump was going to do with Doge as well as the tariffs, which I'll get to shortly, but what's being done right now is necessary because everybody agrees. We're also starting to see some Democrats starting to talk about publicly now how they're in favor of tariffs, but they don't like the way the administration is doing it. What they're doing it is the wrong way, according to them. So we're starting to see that change because they're hearing from their constituents. So you get 500,000 people out protesting, but these are all the loons, the lefty lunatics, the same ones protesting in favor of Hamas, you know. In fact, I was watching video, lots of videos from around the country, and there was a common theme. People were at this protest against Elon Musk and Trump, but they had climate change signs, Ukraine, pro-Palestine, you know. It's the same crowd. It's not, you know, they're in the minority. 500,000 nationwide. What is that? 0.0145% or something like that of the population. Something like that. I mean, it's 360 million people in the country, and 500,000 of them showed up through organized protest, because a lot of these left-wing organizations are .orgs, I call them. I've talked about them many times on these walks. Well-funded .orgs, funded by billionaires, whether it's George Soros or other people. They're just basically globalists, socialists for the most part, and they don't want the United States to fix itself, because if it does, the rest of the world's going to fall in line and globalism is over. And we're already starting to see that. Prime Minister Starmer of the UK publicly stated that we're in a new era economically. Globalism is ending, he said. Now, for him to say that, he's saying that because he realizes you're not going to be able to go up against the United States in a trade war and come out on top. You're just not. And Trump knows that. That's the art of the deal. While everything he's doing is upsetting people with uncertainty and the markets, and Trump is right. The markets are going to steady out because they have to. This is the way business will be done from now on, and they will adjust. So, what would be a disaster is to back out of it and stop what you're doing now once it's started. Can't do that. That can ruin your whole presidency, everything. Just the fact that you promised you were going to do this when you got elected. That's what I voted for. So now you're starting to see a handful of Democrats now starting to be supportive of tariffs. My local Democrat congressman, for example, Jared Golden, sent out an email. He supports 10% tariffs across the board on all countries, but he doesn't agree with how Trump is doing this. So that tells you right there they're losing. The public knows what's going on, you know. All of this alarm stuff going off on CNN, and that's all just show. This is the playbook they have played over and over again. There's no difference right now than what they did in 2020 with the Black Lives Matter protests to gin up anger and rage. So instead of solving problems for people, they're trying, and I told you this on this walk, and I'm not saying, you know, like I told you this, you know, like I'm supposed to be some kind of expert. I'm just saying I mentioned this 3 weeks to a month ago, that all the Democrats have now, because they don't have the House, they don't have the Senate, and they don't have the White House, is to do what they did in 2020, is to enrage the public. What I should say, 2017, when they didn't have either. So they tried to enrage the public, to try to force public opinion to change, to make it look like the public doesn't support this. So Fact of the matter is from every indication I've seen and polling that has been done recently, Americans are on board with this. The majority of the country voted for this. There was no secrets being kept. He said he was going to do this. And he did. So that's what we end up getting with now. Thankfully, this is what I voted for. This is awesome. I am getting more than what I voted for. I didn't count on Doge doing what it's doing. That is a bonus. So the Democrats are spreading they're stealing the Social Security. They're stealing your Medicare. They're trying to get people frightened, panicked, to turn against Republicans so the Democrats can win next year. The problem is this isn't going to work for them because this is the same stuff they were saying before the election. And the people don't believe it. So the Democrats are trying to do like, well, see, we told you. We told you this was going to happen. So far, people's services have not been disrupted. People are still getting their checks. They're still getting their Medicare. The people that are upset is the extra government wasteful jobs of people that got fired. So that's what we voted for. We're going to turn it into a privatized economy instead of a government-funded economy, which is what we have now. So things are going to change whether they like it or not. Very disappointed in Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul, who jumped on board with the Democrats to block the tariffs with Canada, which didn't really do anything because it would have to pass in the House, and it's not going to. So he did that for nothing, and now people think he's a jerk. And you know, Rand Paul is correct. We used to have a tariff system, and then we tried to there was a whole bunch of other things that led to it as I go up this steep hill. But basically, the Depression happened. But it was a different time. It was a different type of economy. And we'll be okay. Something we have to do. We're funding the rest of the world. And we weren't funding the rest of the world back then. So they're grasping at straws. It's just very disappointing to see Rand Paul get on that on a constitutional viewpoint. No president has the right to raise taxes. A tariff is a tax. Well, it's not. A tariff is a tax put on importers. They pay it, and then the prices either get absorbed by the distributors or people that sell it, or they raise their prices on items that we need to buy. And I would agree with Rand Paul that tariffs by themselves are not a good thing to do. What he's not taking into account is that it's a multi-pronged. Let me flip the camera around. Whew. Now we get that big hill out of the way behind me. Hi everybody. So it's a multi-pronged deregulation, tax cuts, making it easier for small business to operate cheaper in this country, giving companies a tax break that are in this country. These are all things that didn't happen in the past. So just tariffs would not be a good idea, but this is a multi-pronged approach. It'll balance out. And that's part of the propaganda that has been getting sold. And this is why I don't like the media and I don't like the dirty Democrats. The reason why I say that, the dirty Democrats means Democrats who use propaganda, fear-mongering, that's their primary weapon. Scaring the public, enraging the public. I am outraged at what they're doing. They're raising taxes on Americans. Well, from what I can tell, we have between, and I added it up, between $5 and $7 trillion investment in America from companies who realize that they're going to have to build factories here if they're going to profit. Because when you take your company out of America, like has been happening for 40, 50 years, they go somewhere else, they get a break on cost of labor, and we're not punishing them for leaving with tariffs. So they turn around and make this stuff ultra cheaply and then sell it here at a lower price than anybody that's trying to manufacture in the United States, and it's not fair. That's exactly what has killed us. So we're taking care of it. We're going to have short-term pain, okay? And I think most people understand that, and we're ready for it. I also don't think it's going to raise inflation because of the other reasons I mentioned. That's why I said if it were tariffs alone, that might be dangerous. But we got smart people, and it's really painful to watch the mainstream media saying, why are they doing this? Why is Scott Bessant on board with this? Now, Peter Navarro, some expert on CNN, I've known him for years. He's smarter than this. Why are they doing this? Because they understand the full picture, and I trust them. The full picture being what I mentioned already. Tax cuts, this, that, and the other. And simple fact that if you build your factory here, you won't get tariffed. What's the headlines today? 50, 5 times 10 countries are in contact with Scott Bessant, trying to negotiate trade deals. The rest of the world is understanding that your country will not have an economy if you get in a trade war with the United States. There's no way for you to win it. We are the world's piggy bank, and we already had the Swiss and also Norway announcing that globalism isn't working. This is the same globalism ushering in the WEF, who wants to control the WHO, the UN, NATO, Now they're coming to their senses, because these have been signed by the president and they go into effect this weekend. So they are rightfully panicking, and they are going to capitulate, and we're going to have free trade, something we should have had decades ago. They're realizing that if they get in a trade war and do like China's doing, and raising or increasing their tariffs on US products, that they're going to get it matched and increased. China right now is almost in a depression. They are hurting. They're not going to be able to sustain this much longer. So the big one to deal with is China. India is already talking about having a policy of free trade, zero tariffs on pharmaceuticals for one, and I believe the other one's automotive. So that means people's drugs are still going to be affordable, and the automotive industry is one that is hugely affected by tariffs, and so far so good. Canada is going to take a knee on the tariffs. I'm calling it now. I said it a month ago. The Liberal Party wants to win this election coming up for them in this month, in April. After the election, they're going to try to play tough with Trump until the election, because they've ginned up their folks and voter base, and their media is scaring everybody into thinking that Canada is going to be bankrupt and Donald Trump is a Hitler because of it. Well, they're going to keep up that charade till after the election, because that's what a dishonest media and liberals do. So that's what they're doing. After the election, they're going to drop the trade war, because mathematically they just simply cannot do it. So Canadians are falling for the bullshit. I hate to say it, but half the Conservative Party there is not conservative. So the Liberals are going to win that election. They were dead in the water when Trudeau was heading it. You had the trans women issue in women's sports, what they're doing in schools, forcing compliance. The people are pissed off. Now, I'm hoping Canadians can figure out what's going on and vote for what pissed them off to begin with when Trudeau was there. So we'll see, but I don't have high hopes for Canada, and again, Canada's not my problem, so good luck. We're fixing our problem. That's how I'm looking at it. And everybody knows that if Canada was attacked by China or Russia tomorrow, we'd be right there, okay? There's no effect like that on friendship. The media tries to make it, oh, we fought in world wars and look at what they're doing to us. Don't do that. That's stupid. And that just goes along with the ginning up anger and fear. We're not out to rip anybody off or destroy anybody. We just want fair, reciprocal, equal trade. That's all we want, a free trade market. It's not hard to understand. The more they fight against it, the more you're making it worse for your country, because you know you're not going to be able to win it. That's just a fact. That's math. Math doesn't lie. I just thought this would be a good idea to get across what I was talking about And you had asked me, how do we take care of parents that are irresponsible and leaving firearms where children can get them? Well, Maine has already passed a law with regards to that. And seems to me what this new law is going to do, if it passes, is increase the punishment. That I agree with, I do. Not all Republicans are going to agree with that, and I'll just tell you up front, the problem, and I go to the range a lot, I shoot a lot with other people, I hear rhetoric from police officers and other people. A lot of the problem people have is they don't want to work with Democrats at all to resolve these problems, because if you give a Democrat, this is a quote, if you give a Democrat an inch, they will take a mile. In other words, if I cave in on something that makes common sense, they're going to think they're getting somewhere, and they'll be even worse to deal with. That's a legitimate concern. The leading cause of death of children is firearms, but not in the way it's framed. It's out of context. So we have a crime problem in this country that I'm sure you're aware of. And you also mentioned in your email that the previous 2 shootings in Maine were teenagers that broke into vehicles and acquired a firearm. But what you didn't mention is both of them were imports from Democrat policy, immigration policy, of people we don't know who are unvetted. And I'm not a racist for saying that. I'm not a bigot. If you're going to have common sense, then you ought to have common sense to listen to other people's concerns and causes for these problems. I don't know how that contributed to the problem. I'm just saying that was an interesting coincidence that we have a Section 8 housing up the street where the police are constantly going there. Constantly. Drugs, assault, violence, robberies. There's a crime problem. So punishing the responsible gun owner who keeps a firearm in their car is not the answer. But I'll tell you, I do not leave my firearm in my car or anything of value because I'm aware of the crime that has been going on. So my brother was working in North Carolina, brand new Toyota truck, had his window smashed out, called the police down there. They said they had about 15 hits like that. They're looking for firearms. And my brother was like, well, how do you know that? He goes, well, because you had $2,000 worth of tools in your truck and they didn't take them, did they? He said firearms are more valuable to these criminal syndicates than money is, because they get a free firearm registered to someone else, and that's a problem. So I agree with the Maine law that if somebody loses their firearm or it's stolen, that they should be held accountable if they don't report it to the police within a reasonable time frame. I also support the law with regard to accidental child deaths. I remember the Maine news story from last year or the year before that broke my heart. This guy was cleaning a firearm, accidentally discharged it and shot a 2-year-old. I think that's what happened. And also there was an older family member who was a minor, shot his basically a toddler sister. So I fully support legislation for strict punishments for that. I do not support forcing people to lock up their firearms and ammunition Because if the same mother has to protect herself and her kids from a husband who is abusing her, or somebody breaking into the home, you just simply do not have the time to unlock safes, load firearms with a kid in one arm, cell phone in the other. It's a ridiculous law. Democrats really need to stop that. It's impractical, and it's actually putting kids in danger. So the rest of the world should not be punished for mistakes that people make, personal choices. That person can very well take drugs. We're not going to start regulating waiting periods for prescriptions. That person could have decided to hang themselves. We're not going to start regulating belts and suspenders that hold up your pants. I just don't agree with it. It's infringing on people's rights. That we're not infringing on your gun rights. You have a right to own firearms. Well, in Ireland, you can own a shotgun, but you have to register it. You need a psych exam. You need to pass a test with the ability to use it with a law enforcement officer there. You have to have it locked up in a case when you leave your house. You can only shoot it at a gun range. You have to belong to a gun club, and it can only be for trap shooting for sporting purposes. So the rationale is, well, you can own firearms. What are you upset about? That alienates gun owners pretty quickly. And unfortunately, you're going to need bipartisanship. And a lot of these Supreme Court decisions, like Bruin and Heller, that's pretty much going to end up destroying things like magazine capacities and things like that, which is another proposed law here in Maine. I'll reiterate all of that stuff. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that we can come up with solutions, but a big problem for the Democratic Party right now is you have alienated so many gun owners with half-truths and exaggerations of fact that a lot of us just don't want to budge an inch, because we know what it means. We've seen what other blue states have done. So Maine is not going to become California, New York, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, Maryland, or any of these other places where people no longer have gun rights, where you seem to think that if you lock up your firearms in a safe in the trunk of the car, you're not allowed to leave your house with ammunition. You have to buy it at the range, who then marks it up from what should be $12 a box for 9mm target rounds to $40, $50, $60, because they know you have to pay it. So it's not going to happen in Maine. It's not. This state will turn Republican before that happens. Just like we got constitutional carry because of Barack Obama's policies annoying everybody. Bloomberg, former mayor of New York, spent millions of dollars in Maine. He did again in 2023 and 2024, trying to get guns banned. It's not going to happen. It's going to come back on Democrats, just like the other Democrat policies coming back on Democrats currently. And we are going to lose federal money now, because we did violate Title IX with the trans women in men's rooms, women's rooms, I mean. I support transsexuals. I support LGBT. I love those people. I do not support transgenderism, transgender ideology. gender ideology, this insane gender identity nonsense that is currently blowing up in Democrats' faces, and it should, because anybody that's promoting the mutilation of children as a social contagion kind of fad deserves to not be elected. Latest polling by the New York Times and Ipsos, 79% of the public polled by a left-wing newspaper state that citizens do not support trans women in women's sports. I mean, we're losing common sense. I'm about 6'3", 6'4", depending on what kind of shoes I wear. I weigh about 230 pounds. And I should not be able to just, without psychological examination or approval. In the old days in Maine, a trans person had 18 months of psychotherapy before they could even get permission for hormone therapy. That is a real person with a real psychological problem with gender dysphoria, which it used to be called gender identity disorder. Now, you can just go see a doctor, and people have mental issues, but it's not that. This is a really terrible thing that has been done to young people, and with common sense should not be happening, but yet it is. And it looks like Democrats are doubling down on it, and they're gonna lose. You guys are gonna lose, I'm telling you. The courts are not going to say that the federal government is wrong for enforcing Title IX, because women's rights are being infringed. Maine could have changed the law, since Maine has the legislature and the Senate and the governor's chair, but it looks like they doubled down on dumb, and they're going to pay for it. We're all going to pay for it. Maine is going to lose that money. Who's going to pay for it? The Maine taxpayer. Maine's going to have to come up with the money somewhere, and I'm fully aware I voted for this. I'm happy about it. Go ahead and raise everybody's taxes because you lose federal money. They're not going to blame Donald Trump, they're going to blame you. So, ooh, it's warm today. Let's flip the camera around. We had a great day at the range yesterday. I shot a lot of black powder. I uploaded a black powder 1851 Navy revolver video. I uploaded a new video for the Canik Rival S, the SFX Rival S. Probably the best pistol I have ever shot in my life. Not a joke. It's perfection. Perfection. Also shot the Canik TTI Combat, which is also a great pistol, but I like the Rival S much better. And the TTI Combat is a great pistol. Absolutely fantastic. So we're going to head on down the road here. Hey. So we get people out walking, getting fit. So anyway, there we go, we're walking. So I've been emailing my state representatives on behalf of all of us. Hopefully you're doing the same thing. You can go to gunownersofmaine.com. They have a full list of proposed bills here in Maine. Most of them are pro-gun, which means most of them aren't going to go anywhere. But if we can get one, maybe two of them, that would be good. So there are some proposed bills. One of them is making the punishment stiffer for people that leave a firearm around and it gets in the hands of a child and he does something bad with it, either to himself or others by accident. Most of the deaths are accidental because a child got a hold of a firearm and either injured themselves or somebody else by accident. And there was an incident here in Maine where an older brother shot his baby sister by accident. I think the kid was 4.5 years old and the little girl was like 2. He didn't realize it wasn't a toy. So I don't know how you legislate against that. And I'd love to get some suggestions in the comments. Practical things, you know, not the talking points. I don't want to hear, well, the Second Amendment, that shouldn't even be an issue. We know that, okay? But in the real world, this is a bill that's already law. They wanted to make the punishment more severe. And I'm a common sense gun owner. And I want a gun owner punished who leaves a loaded firearm where kids can get them. But I don't want to make them lock up the firearm. So if somebody breaks in, they can't defend themselves. So I'm trying to correspond with my senator, state senator, who actually personally answers messages, which is nice, and actually has a rapport with me. I've gone back and forth with her a few times. I don't call her names and use a whole bunch of rhetoric. I'm very polite, and that's the way it should be. It doesn't mean she's going to change her mind on anything. I'm pretty sure she's not going to, but at least she'll have all the facts. Now, I just corrected her on one of them. I mentioned it a while ago on this walk, but you know, the media and the Democrats love to use that one. Firearms are the leading cause of death of children. That is true statistically, but out of context. That's misleading. Half of those, children hurting themselves at home by accident, or a teenager getting hold of a gun at home and committing suicide, which is tragic, okay? The other half is gang-related criminal violence, shootings out in the parking lot where 200 people had gathered, and 14 people get shot. I mean, that just happened recently, more than once this year. So the media then comes on TV. There were 200 mass shootings this year. Well, they're including the gang violence. It's not a mass shooting. 4 or 5 people getting shot because they were at a traffic stop and they started fighting with each other. It's not a mass shooting. A mass shooting is doing something horrible, like going into a school and murdering children because you have psychological issues. That's a mass shooting. I would support legislation geared towards mental health. I don't have a problem with the yellow flag law in Maine. We just had that shooting in Sabattis, I talked about yesterday, day before yesterday on the last walk. That guy had mental issues. His family knew it because one of the interviews with them was his mother was always able to calm him down. That means he's been a past problem and they knew about it. So, and I knew somebody like that years ago. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't know if his family will see this. He ended up, ironically, being killed in a cabin where a hunter's bullet just randomly went through the cabin, hit him in the lung, and he died because he was in the middle of nowhere, for one thing. The person that shot him didn't know he shot him. So, anyway, he died. He was in his 20s. So, the reason why I mention that is this particular person had kind of a schizophrenic personality. It'd be great, you'd have a great time with him. And I remember one time in particular, he was working on his motorcycle and he was hammering on his gas tank, which he hadn't emptied it. So he's working on his gas tank trying to take a dent out of it, and he's smashing it with a hammer with the cover off it. Fumes, a spark from that, and one spark from that, it would have blown up that tank and killed him. So I told him he shouldn't be doing that. I said, it's dangerous. Well, he got all offended, threw a fit. He ended up getting the police there. He was trashing his apartment, screaming at people, and he just flipped out. And I triggered it. And we were good friends. So then I saw him do that at other times as well. You just never knew when he was going to flip out, okay? So he had a mental health issue. Now, he's somebody that if he would have had a firearm, he would have caused a problem. I'm pretty sure of it. So, you can't legislate against that. And, you can't, and the reason why I thought of him is his mother was always the one that could calm him down. So, very similar, right? So this guy in Sabattis ended up shooting his mother in the car with a .357 revolver, killed her. Then he got out of his vehicle with an AK-47, which he just happened to have in the car, loaded, so probably planned this. The family said he had been a problem all day. They were trying to calm him down. He was working himself up all day to what happened, they said. So again, this is somebody they knew that had a mental health problem. Yellow flag law was supposed to take care of that. That's why they passed it. What I'd like to know is what the police department knew. Surely, in a small town like Sabattis, they were aware of him, and they knew him by name, probably. And they had the authority with the yellow flag law to do something about it. And I don't think they were willing to do it. Because you look at it as a gun owner and a conservative as, well, we don't want people to be able to do that. The yellow flag law is different because either law enforcement, which you need, or a psychiatrist, or both, can petition a judge and let a judge know about these things. So something could have been done about that. Fortunately, only the person who did it was killed, and his mother. I don't mean that fortunately his mother was killed, I just mean that they were the two people involved with it, and the cars he was shooting at, well, he shot 2 people out of 3 cars he was shooting at. He shot 2. They didn't die. So it's like, that could have been prevented, in my opinion. And almost all of these things that happen, there's always somebody that comes out. It was on the FBI's radar because they had received tips, things like that. And I'm wondering why they're not enforcing it. Anyway, they also want to amend in Maine the yellow flag law to include being able to allow law enforcement to inform a principal or superintendent of schools of a potential problem student. I reluctantly support that. The reason why I say reluctantly is I don't trust where they're going to go with it. I read the bill as written, and it sounds like it's a good idea, but a lot of the things they promote sounds like a good idea, and it's not. I do not want law enforcement to have some extra authority they shouldn't have. But there should be some kind of informed, this person that goes to your school has been making these threats. So they can either decide to suspend the student, which isn't going to prevent a mass shooting because he can just get what he needs and then show up, right? So I don't know what good that accomplishes. It might allow the school to talk with the parents first before something happens. That might be helpful. So I'll look more into that, but from what I read, it looks like something I would support. You know, we need common sense. We got to get away from the partisanship, you know? And like I said, it's really tough because you give these bastards an inch and they'll take the whole damn enchilada. You know, these people are ruthless. So anyway, I just thought I'd pass that along. That's something I was thinking about. Oh, we'll flip the camera around here. There we go. I had to fix my damn wand. Up the road. I haven't been seeing any turkeys lately. Sun is starting to go down. I'm going to run out of daylight soon, so I don't want to be on these back roads out in the dark, but I can use my cell phone as a flashlight. Grand Central Station out here today. See a fox fox out there running across. Like a little red fox. Nice view out here today. Yes, what do we do about parents that are irresponsible and put their kids in danger? Well, I noticed one of the proposed LDs, I forget the number off the top of my head, forgive me, states they want to increase the penalty, which is fine with me. I support that. Anybody that owns a firearm has to be responsible. Everything must be legal with common sense. And too many children are being injured because they're children. They don't know any better. And a couple of cases come to mind here in Maine. I know there was a father, I don't remember if it was a couple of years ago or maybe longer, was cleaning a firearm and did something stupid, discharged the firearm and shot his kid. I believe he got prosecuted for that, which he should. And he has to live with killing his child senselessly. And the other one was, I think it was a 4.5-year-old brother found a handgun and accidentally shot his young toddler sister. I don't know if the child died or not, I don't remember. So much news goes on all the time. But that is irresponsible gun ownership. Nobody wants that. The problem I run into talking to other gun owners about it, and it's almost the same answer with everyone. This is them talking, and I agree with it a lot. Reference to Democrat lawmakers. If you give them an inch, quote, okay, give them an inch, they'll take the whole enchilada, or a mile, or however they put it. People that own firearms honestly believe that you guys are out to get them and take their guns away. I believe that's partially true. There's an agenda there, but I'm not going to get into that today. How do we make parents responsible? Well, unfortunately, you cannot legislate against stupidity any more than you can against insanity. And as I have told you, I support the yellow flag law. I really do. If it's enforced, looks like we have 2 shootings now. The Robert Card one that should have been enforced and wasn't. And the one in Sabattis with the 29-year-old, it's pretty apparent to me his family knew about it. More than likely the police did too in a small town like Sabattis, where everybody knows when somebody lost a cow around the corner on their farm. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of problems there. If law enforcement did know about that and didn't act on it, I would want to know why. And I would support legislation punishing law enforcement for not acting on this. This is common sense gun stuff that helps everybody. I could have been driving on that road. I don't want to have to get out of my car and use my firearm on somebody. That shouldn't even be happening. So, it's one of those things. And if you're wondering, I'm on my daily, I've done this for a few years now. I walk at least 5 or 6 miles a day. I lost a lot of weight. I'm at my high school fit weight. I'm very healthy for being 57 coming up. And so make America healthy, right? Make America healthy again. So anyway, I don't know what we can do. because there's a public relations problem that Democrats have. And we talked about the leading cause of death among children is firearms. It's a deceptive, out of context, you know, a parking lot full of people, 200 people for a barbecue. The pig roast, I think, was one of them. You know, 14 people got shot because a fight broke out. It's not a mass shooting. The media, every time there's a shooting like that, another mass shooting happened. You know, gun owners aren't stupid people. They look at that and they go, this is literally what they do. They go, it's not a mass shooting. A mass shooting is going into a school and murdering children, which tears my heart to shreds. Because the media and a lot of Democrats and politicians on both sides, Republicans use things that happen, Democrats use things that happen, and unfortunately people are becoming out of touch that are elected to government. And the rhetoric that I'm seeing on the news, like CNN, MSNBC especially, are so out of touch, it's no wonder nobody's watching them anymore. I don't watch any of those networks. So there's a messaging problem, a PR problem, where anything a Democrat says, first of all, is not trusted because of those deceptive practices. Well, all people have to do is be honest. I don't know why people can't say, out of all the deaths from people under 18, half of them are because of crime and gangs, but this other half is unacceptable. Why can't people just say that? You know, why do they have to go make this thing on Republicans want children to be killed? They won't support this. We're tired of that. We're past that. That's no longer going to work, which is why the Democrats just lost. And people have come around. We're not going to put up with that anymore. We've had enough division and hate. We want unity. Trump was elected because all of the people that were supporting RFK quickly bonded with the Make America Great Again crowd, and everybody was calling themselves the Unity Party. Everybody was so anxious to unify and fix things. And the Democrats are missing the boat on that. You know, and they're destroying, you know, I hate to say it, but you guys are destroying your party. Now you get people like Bernie Sanders and AOC. It looks like AOC, if she decides to primary Chuck Schumer, he's gone. Probably the most powerful Democrat in my lifetime. And he's going to get ousted by a former bartender who has a heavy far-left socialist values. That's just more losing for the Democratic Party. And, you know, so you guys are going to have to redo everything you're doing, everything, and mean it. You can't just pretend to be a moderate to win an election. President Trump won his election because he told us what he was going to do, what he honestly believed with no BS, and now he's doing it. And I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely happy. He's doing what I voted for. Is he perfect? No, he's not. It's not what I care about. I care about the country first. Government spending is an economy all its own. We need to privatize our economy and not government fund our economy. There's no reason to have all these thousands of government employees. I would hate to see the amount of waste in Maine. It must be staggering. And we just had to increase our budget to over $11 billion for the first time, from 8 point something. So the Maine government is spending money hand over fist. That's going to come back to bite you guys. It just will. That's what happened nationally, and it'll happen in Maine. You guys lost some seats in the last election. And by the time the next election comes, and you lost them on immigration and the economy. And what was your answer? You increased income tax by 1%, raised the tax on cigarettes, pot, vapes. It's like, raise tax, raise tax. Why don't you cut spending? That's the problem. Spending is the problem. There's a reason why people call Democrats tax and spend Democrats, because that's what you do. California's GDP is, I think it's probably one of the largest in the world, besides countries like India, and you know, they get the GDP of a country. And they're bankrupt. They're in the red. They had a huge surplus and they blew it all on social stuff. You know? It's crazy. I have no idea why the progressives think the stuff they spew is ever going to work in America and get them elected. It's not. So, all it does is it elects Donald Trumps. And I will vote for 1,000 more Donald Trumps in my lifetime, as opposed to destroying ourselves from within. I can't do it. Can't do it. Sorry. So, hope you enjoyed walking with me today. I'm going to be turning the camera off up ahead. I don't know how this walk is going to turn out on video. I may upload it, I may not, we'll see. But I don't upload every walk. Ooh, my hand's numb holding that. You try holding a selfie stick for a few miles and tell me how your fingers feel. Yikes. There we go. I got them back. So anyway, God bless you and your family. Say a prayer for the country and President Trump. We're going to be okay, folks. We're doing all right. This is going to be good. I promise you. We're going to get a whole bunch of these countries. They're going to be sending envoys to the White House to talk about trade. And they're going to bend a knee. Because we're the world's piggy banks, and as Trump says, we hold all the cards. And that's the truth. You can look at it mathematically any way you want to. There's no other way to pay down our debt. That's really the biggest problem. We have a deficit. We've got a trade deficit. For the first time, our yearly spending has outdone our GDP. That's the first time that's ever happened. That is a company going bankrupt. So what's being done right now has to be done. It doesn't matter how painful it is. It doesn't matter how much damage it causes. Unfortunately, we're at the point where this has to be done. So we're going to suck it up as Americans and we'll fix everything. It'll be fine. We're not going to be lining up at soup kitchens like in the 20s and 30s. So anyway, have faith, say a prayer for the country. And I don't mean that loosely. I mean seriously, say a prayer for the country and for President Trump and for all of this stuff to work. And have these evil people trying to sabotage him be made to light. And if they're doing anything nefarious or illegal, to have them being discovered and prosecuted. So we're about ready to start hearing about prosecutions coming. Pam Bondi hasn't been there long. Kash Patel hasn't been there long in the FBI. But we're going to start seeing those soon. And we're going to enjoy it, because until people go to jail, this will continue. And the media is going to tell you Trump is prosecuting his political enemies. It's endless for these people. So with that, thank you very much for walking with me. Click like and subscribe. Share the content if you so like it. And we will see you on the next walk in Maine, where it's beautiful and it looks like I'll get my walk in before it gets dark. So that makes me happy. And I just like talking into a camera while I'm walking. I don't care if I make sense or not. And I hope you enjoy that. So we'll see you later, everybody. Thanks a lot. Till next walk, friends. Bye-bye.